Welcome back to my channel. It's about 15 days since I recorded the first video. The first of the King Edward potatoes has poked through for the grafting experiment. I've also managed to have a bit of a tidy up and planted up some of my tomato plants. So I've got 9 plants in here, all in builder's buckets with holes in the bottom. It makes it easy when they're done just to lift the bucket out and take it outside and empty it. I've got some other plants getting a bit wild and leggy down there, which I'll take to the allotment. You can always, even if they're a bit leggy, you can salvage the plants just by cutting them off and then growing from a side shoot, and they'll keep growing. Also, I'm leaving all the side shoots on for the time being because it's the easiest way to propagate a new plant. Much faster than growing from seed. Every hair on a tomato stem is a potential root, and you literally cut them off, plant them or drop them in a jar of water, and within a few days they'll have started growing roots and you've got a new plant well on the way. So for example, that'll be another plant. I find it's easier just to buy a few plants and then propagate a few more from the side shoots rather than grow them from seed. I've got some other things growing here, some beans there, which I'll take to the allotment. These are some onions and leeks I've grown from seed. These are tomato plants I've grown from seed, and these are very blight resistant, or certainly 2 of the varieties, so these are the ones I'm going to try grafting onto the potatoes. I've got some chilies and sweet peppers growing here. Now this is one peppers don't die each year if you take them in the house and just prune them back, put them on a windowsill. For the most part they'll survive the winter and grow again earlier the next year. It's just that people leave them in the greenhouses or whatever where they get frozen and they die. I've got some chilies here as well, which I've bought, and also these are some different squashes which I've grown from seed. One's a butternut squash and one's what they call a spaghetti squash. They're the other potatoes under there. None of them have poked through yet. The whole idea of the grafting experiment is to do with the if you've watched it, I referenced the film The Martian with Matt Damon. In that film, he pretty much lives on potatoes, and he manages to, I realise it's a film, he manages to grow some potatoes on Mars, but he runs out of tomato sauce, and I believe Heinz conducted an experiment to see if they could find seeds that would grow on Martians, from crushed Martian rocks and stuff. But in reality, if you can grow the potatoes, all you've got to do is graft tomatoes on top of the potatoes. You don't need to actually plant the tomatoes in the Martian dirt. I realise this is all theoretical, but just an interesting experiment nonetheless. I'm curious to see if the tomatoes' taste is affected much by actually, getting its moisture through a potato rootstock, so to speak. So that's the reason behind the experiment anyway. I've just got some stuff burning, actually. You can just see the flames out there. Garden waste just burning down. That'll make a nice pan of ash, which will mix back in with the compost. I'll just take you outside. I've got a few raised beds outside. Probably won't talk as loud out there. I don't know neighbours in gardens and stuff, but I've planted some sweet corn and onions and leeks and stuff. Just bought as starter plants, and I plant them as plugs. So this one's got sweet corn in, it's got red onions and white onions with a few garlic just around the outside, which is just saved from supermarket garlic. This bed actually had 60 garlic cloves planted in it, and I know it seems close, but they grow fine in a raised bed. But only 5 or 6 have germinated, which is quite disappointing, and that was proper nursery garlic. This bed, I've got some red and green cabbage in there, and I think that's elephant garlic that's self-sown from a previous year. I'm hoping it is anyway. stuff I didn't manage to fully harvest. This bed again, you've got leeks on the left, white onions up the centre and red onions on the right. Now there's quite a few there. I know convention tells you to plant them singularly, but in a confined space you don't really need to. You can plant them as a clump. The strongest ones actually grow first, and you can carefully tease them away and let the others develop. So this way you'll kind of stunt them a bit if you tease them apart. So planting them as a clump like that, they'll carry on growing pretty quick. They've not come through yet, but there's also a few more saved supermarket garlics just stuffed in down the side. I'm sure they'll come through quick enough. I have managed to cut a bit more of the undergrowth back, which is what's burning there now, but still plenty to go. There's no water anywhere nearby, but living in that bucket is a frog. He's hiding at the minute, but it's amazing. There's one in the garden as well, and there's one living at the front under my wheelie bin. There's no water anywhere nearby. In fact, there's one lives in here, but I haven't seen him for a couple of days. You'd think that it'd get too warm for them, they must be away in and out, but it seems happy enough anyway. So this is just a bit of an update really. There is actually fruit starting to form on the tomatoes. A little tip for anyone growing tomatoes: there's a disease or a fungus, if you like, that some tomatoes, the fruit can develop. It's called blossom end rot, and I would suggest that once they're germinated and the flower's died, just make sure you knock the flower off, the dead flower. And I never really get blossom end rot when I do that. So I think it's just the flower decays and rots on the end of the growing tomato. So it's worth keeping an eye on yourselves. So I think that'll do me for today. I'll try and do a bit of filming again at my allotment tomorrow night after work. So thanks for watching. Cheers now.